I entered the wrong room. The two alien women inside wouldn't let me leave. Evan Hale had always been a careful man, but that day, curiosity got the better of him. The research station was enormous, a sprawling structure of glass corridors, softly glowing panels, and silent machines that hummed in the background. He had been assigned to check the energy grids on the eastern wing, but a sign flickering too quickly caught his eye. It simply read Observation Chamber 12, though no one had mentioned it in his briefing. Without thinking much, he pushed the door open. The air inside was cooler than the hallway, and it smelled faintly of ozone. He expected a small room filled with instruments, maybe a few scientists monitoring data. What he did not expect were the two beings inside. They stood silently, facing him. Their skin shimmered faintly, a soft blend of blue and silver, and their eyes were unusually large, observing him with an intensity that made him suddenly aware of every move he made. Evan froze. The door behind him clicked shut. He tried it, expecting a malfunction, but it didn't budge. "Hello," he said cautiously. The voice felt foreign in the sterile, humming room. "I didn't mean to intrude. I was looking for the energy grids." The two aliens tilted their heads in unison. One of them, slightly taller, spoke, but not in a voice Evan recognized. A soft hum filled the room. Words formed in his mind as if the sound carried meaning directly to him. "You are here. You are not supposed to be here." I'm sorry," he stammered. "I didn't know this room was restricted. The other alien raised a hand, and a panel on the wall lit up. Symbols and shapes flashed in a rhythm Evan could almost follow. Then, through the same hum, another thought entered his mind. Leaving now would disturb the cycle. "We cannot open the door." Evan's heart beat faster. He wasn't in danger, he knew that, but the certainty of being unable to leave made him uneasy. He stepped back and leaned against the wall, trying to calm himself. "I don't understand," he said aloud. "Why can't I leave?" The taller alien extended her hand, not threateningly, but as if offering something intangible. A feeling of calm washed over him, yet there was no denying the firmness of their intent. "You came here by chance. This is unprecedented. We must observe." Evan swallowed hard. He realized that this wasn't about confinement. They weren't keeping him here to hurt him. They were curious. He was a visitor in a space where no human had ever been allowed, and their interest was more intense than he had ever encountered. He tried to reason with them. "If it's about observation, I can stay still. I can cooperate. But can you explain what you are observing?" The aliens exchanged a look. It wasn't human, but he somehow understood it as a form of silent conversation. Then the taller one seemed to smile, if a movement like that could be called a smile. "We observe how you adapt to the unknown," she communicated. "Most creatures panic. You do not." Evan thought about that. It was true, he was scared, but not in a panic. Fear did not control him. He had learned long ago that panicking never helped, whether in a lab, on a spaceship, or facing the unknown. The two aliens were reading his behavior like a book, noting every small reaction, every hesitation, every calm breath. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. Time in the room seemed different. There was no clock, no sun, no reference point. Just the soft hum of the walls and the steady presence of the two beings. Evan realized that the door might never open unless he proved something, but he didn't yet know what. He decided to speak again, carefully choosing his words. "I don't know your rules, and I don't know why humans are here, but I want to understand. If there's a way for me to help you to make this easier, I will." For a moment, the room was silent, except for the soft hum. Then, almost like a wave, he felt a new thought entering his mind. "You are patient. You think clearly. You do not act from fear. This is rare." Evan realized something incredible. These beings were not only intelligent, they were incredibly precise. And they were curious about him in a way that humans rarely were. He was a puzzle. But he also felt something else: respect. Not the kind that is demanded, but the kind that is earned through action and calm thought. He decided to explore the room without touching anything. His eyes scanned the walls. There were panels, lights, and symbols he didn't recognize, all moving and shifting as if alive. He wondered if he could communicate using the patterns, but nothing he tried seemed to reach them in the right way. Then one of them approached a panel and touched it lightly. Shapes on the wall changed, forming something he could understand, a sequence, a question. "Why are you here?" Evan took a deep breath. "I came by mistake. I was curious. I did not know this room existed." A pause. The other alien moved closer. Then a new thought entered him. "You are brave, though not reckless." "This is uncommon." Evan smiled faintly. He realized he was learning about them as much as they were learning about him. Every movement, every word, every reaction was a bridge between two species. He didn't feel trapped anymore. He felt like part of a process that he couldn't yet fully understand. Hours passed, though he lost track of time. He spoke when he could, listened when he should, and learned more about patience, observation, and subtle communication than he ever had in human society. Every step he took was measured, thoughtful, careful. Finally, the taller one spoke in a new pattern, a rhythm that Evan understood clearly in his mind. You were never expected to enter this room. Most of your kind cannot handle it. Evan froze. That explained a lot. The door, the quiet, the careful observation, it wasn't punishment. It was a test. Somehow, without realizing it, he had passed the first stage. You mean humans aren't supposed to manage this? He asked. A slow, gentle nod. Most are overwhelmed. You are different. Evan realized the enormity of what he had stumbled into. He had entered the wrong room, but in doing so, he had also entered a space where humans were considered extraordinary, perhaps uniquely capable. He leaned back, feeling a mix of exhaustion and awe. He was still unable to leave, but the tension was gone. He understood now that this was not a prison, and that these beings were not his captors. They were his teachers, in a way he had never expected. And as the hum in the room continued, Evan felt a strange excitement. He had no idea what would happen next, but he knew one thing. Humanity had been noticed, and maybe, just maybe, it had something remarkable to show. Evan remained in the softly humming room, feeling the quiet patience of the two alien women around him. He had come to understand that they were not holding him against his will. They were simply following rules he did not yet comprehend. He could feel their attention on him, precise and observant, and it made him aware of every detail of his own actions. The way he breathed, the way he shifted his weight, the way his eyes scanned the room, they all mattered here. After a long moment, the taller alien stepped closer and touched one of the panels. Shapes and symbols rearranged themselves on the wall, forming patterns that Evan could now interpret. The message came directly into his mind. You are human. You are capable of more than most. Evan frowned. What do you mean? He asked aloud. More than most what? The alien's voice, or rather the thought they projected, was calm. Most species fail here. Most cannot maintain clarity, patience, or empathy under unknown conditions. Humans sometimes surprise us. Evan felt a mix of pride and confusion. So I wasn't supposed to enter this room at all? A slow nod. No human was expected to pass the test. Your species is unusual, adaptive, curious, and strangely patient. These traits, they are rare. He took a deep breath. So I'm here because I'm different. You are here because you are human, and humans are being watched, carefully. Evan tried to process what that meant. He remembered the many alien species he had read about during his training, precise, logical, rigid. They rarely tolerated anything unpredictable. Humans, however, were unpredictable, but not chaotic. They adapted. They thought with both head and heart, and apparently that made them special. The second alien moved closer and projected another thought. Observation is complete. You have passed the first stage. The next stage is understanding. Understanding? Evan repeated. Of what? Of us, of ourselves, of what humans might bring to the galaxy. He realized suddenly that he was not in danger at all. The two aliens were not interested in punishing him. They were trying to teach him something. But what? The taller one extended her hand, this time not as a warning but as an invitation. Come closer, see for yourself. Evan stepped forward carefully and examined the panels on the walls. They were no longer random symbols, but seemed to form a story of an advanced civilization that had watched the rise of others from a distance, collecting knowledge quietly, intervening rarely. And somewhere in that story, humans were mentioned. Your species is unpredictable, the alien projected. You combine logic, emotion, creativity, and empathy. This is unusual. This is why you are important. Evan felt a strange thrill. Humanity had always been curious, always driven to explore, to understand, to reach beyond. But he had never thought of that as special on a cosmic scale. Here, in this quiet room, under the careful watch of beings far older and wiser, he realized that perhaps it was. I don't understand everything yet, he said slowly. But I want to. The taller alien seemed to smile again. You will, and soon. But first you must learn to observe as we do, not just with your eyes, but with your mind, your empathy, your understanding. Hours passed as Evan followed their guidance. He watched how they interacted with the panels, how they interpreted patterns and sequences, how they measured outcomes not in numbers, but in understanding. He began to see their world through their perspective, a world of quiet patience, careful attention, and deep curiosity. He realized that what had seemed like containment was actually an invitation. They had not trapped him. They had welcomed him into a space that very few of his species could enter. And now that he was here, he had the chance to learn. "You are ready," the alien said, "ready to understand your potential." "What potential?" Evan asked. "To act as a bridge." Evan frowned. "A bridge. Between species, between worlds, between understanding and knowledge. Humans are rare. You do not fear the unknown, but you do not harm it either. You seek to learn, to adapt, to cooperate. This is why you are capable of things others are not." Evan felt a sudden weight of responsibility. He had stumbled into this room by accident, but now he realized that his presence might mean something far greater. Humans could connect species that otherwise could not understand each other. Humans could bring empathy and logic together in ways that few others could. He glanced at the two aliens. "So, you've been watching humanity all along?" From afar, the taller one projected. "We have seen your species adapt, survive, learn, and grow. But no one human has ever reached here. Until you," Evan swallowed. The enormity of it was overwhelming. He had not just entered the wrong room. He had crossed a threshold no human had crossed before. And now everything he did mattered, not just for him, but for his entire species. I don't know if I'm ready," he admitted. "You are ready because you have no choice," the second alien projected gently. "And because you are human, that is enough." He laughed quietly. It was a nervous laugh, but also one filled with wonder. "So what now?" "Now," they said, "you learn, you observe, you understand, and you prepare to teach." For the next several hours, or perhaps it was days, Evan immersed himself in their lessons. He learned to read patterns not as numbers, but as stories. He learned to interpret emotion and intention through subtle signals he had never noticed before. He discovered that what had seemed like simple panels on a wall were actually sophisticated simulations of societies, ecosystems, and interstellar interactions. And everywhere, humanity's potential was threaded through the simulations. He realized that the two aliens were preparing him for a role that was unprecedented. Humans had never been asked to bridge species before. They had never been called to act as intermediaries on a galactic scale. And yet here he was, standing in a room that had been forbidden, learning skills that could change the way civilizations interacted. Finally, the taller alien spoke, her thought clear and deliberate. "The room opens to you now." Evan turned toward the door. He had expected resistance, a moment of hesitation, but the panel glowed softly and the door slid open without a sound. Outside, the station continued as if nothing had happened. Humans walked the corridors, unaware of the small room and the monumental experience he had just endured. But Evan knew. He understood something no other human had ever known. The galaxy was watching, and humans were now on the radar in a way they had never been before. He took a deep breath and stepped out of the room, carrying not just himself, but the knowledge that humanity had the potential to connect, to learn, and to lead. The two aliens followed, no longer observers but guides. Their mission was complete, but his had just begun. He understood now that mistakes could lead to great discoveries, that curiosity was a gift, and that humanity, sometimes clumsy, often bold, always curious, was capable of remarkable things. As Evan walked back into the station, he felt a quiet determination growing inside him. One day, humans would not only explore the stars. They would teach, they would connect, they would build bridges that no other species could. And it all began because he had entered the wrong room. The station felt familiar and ordinary, yet Evan knew it had changed forever. The universe had noticed humans, and through him, humanity had taken its first step toward a new kind of understanding. He smiled, thinking of the two aliens waiting in silence. They had trusted him with their knowledge, and in return, he had learned more about himself and his species than he ever could have imagined. And as he walked away, he realized the truth that the aliens had quietly proven. Evan had stepped out of the chamber with a new understanding of himself and his species, yet the station felt strangely alive now, as if it knew he had changed. The corridors, which had once seemed ordinary, now shimmered with possibilities he had never noticed. Every panel, every soft hum of machinery, every shadow of a passerby was a reminder that he had been chosen to witness something remarkable. The two alien women accompanied him silently, their presence comforting yet commanding. They did not speak in words. Their thoughts flowed directly to him, clear and precise, yet warm. "We will show you the next stage," they conveyed. "It is time to understand not only us, but the galaxy itself." Evan nodded, uncertain but ready. He had learned patience in the observation room, and now he understood that impatience could cloud judgment. He walked with care, following the aliens to a part of the station he had never visited. It was called the Nexus, a central hub where beings from dozens of worlds came to exchange knowledge. The Nexus was a marvel. Suspended walkways crisscrossed a vast chamber filled with floating displays, holographic symbols, and creatures of every shape and size moving with purpose. Some were tall and elegant, others short and rounded, and all seemed to communicate in languages that Evan could only begin to sense. The aliens guided him to the center, where a platform hovered above the floor. "This is where decisions are made," the taller alien projected. "Here you will learn the power of observation and the value of human perspective." Evan felt a surge of anticipation. He had been chosen not because of strength, not because of knowledge alone, but because of the human way of thinking, curious, adaptive, empathetic. Here in this hall of intelligence, he realized that his species had a unique place. "Observe first," the second alien instructed. "Speak later." Evan watched as representatives of various species approached the central displays. They interacted with data streams in ways that seemed almost magical, manipulating sequences of light and sound to extract meaning. Patterns he could not yet understand unfolded before him. Yet as he watched, he noticed something the others did not. The small inconsistencies, the subtle gaps, the errors that only a fresh perspective could see. Humans notice what others overlook, the taller alien conveyed. "You have the ability to connect patterns across different systems, to bridge ideas that seem unrelated. This is your gift." Evan realized the truth in that. On Earth, humans often solved problems by connecting ideas that others could not see as related. Creativity and empathy combined with logic, forming solutions that no single trait alone could produce. Here, in this nexus of interstellar intelligence, that ability was rare and valuable. A delegation approached him, a group of beings with translucent skin and multi-jointed limbs. Their leader projected thoughts into Evan's mind, testing his understanding. They presented a scenario, a trade network between planets that had failed repeatedly because the participants could not understand each other's motives. Evan took a deep breath and examined the holographic data. He noticed that each planet had unspoken assumptions, social rules, expectations, and fears that the others ignored. Humans, he thought, often solved conflicts by understanding the perspectives of everyone involved. He projected his solution to the network carefully, aligning interests, proposing compromises, and respecting differences. The aliens around him observed silently. Then the network lit up in acknowledgement. The scenario that had been deemed unsolvable now had a path forward. "This is why humans are valued," the taller alien projected. "You do not impose, you adapt, you connect." Evan smiled, a quiet pride growing within him. He had never considered that simple human traits, curiosity, empathy, patience, could hold cosmic significance. Yet here they were, making him a bridge between worlds that had never understood each other. Hours turned into days as he participated in discussions, simulations, and problem-solving sessions. Every time he approached a new challenge, he applied human reasoning in ways that surprised the aliens. He noticed small inconsistencies in complex systems, suggested alternatives, and helped mediate misunderstandings. Slowly, other beings began to look at him differently. Not as a human, not as an outsider, but as a participant, an equal with unique insight. One evening, as the station lights dimmed to a softer glow, Evan found himself alone with the two alien women. The hum of the chamber was gentle, almost contemplative. "You are learning quickly," the taller one projected. "Soon you will participate in matters that shape entire systems. You must understand responsibility." Evan nodded. "I understand," he said, "but it is a lot to take in. So much depends on what I do." "Yes," the second alien projected, "but that is why humans are capable. You carry understanding, empathy, and adaptability. You are not perfect, but you do not need to be. You see connections others miss, and you act with intention." He reflected on that. Humans often made mistakes, yes, but they also learned from them, adapted, and created solutions that no one else could imagine. That was why he had been chosen, not because he was flawless, but because he could think, feel, and act in ways that were valuable beyond mere calculation. The next day, Evan was brought to the Nexus Council, a gathering of delegates from dozens of species. They projected problems, asked questions, and tested assumptions. Evan listened, observed, and then spoke. He suggested ways to restructure communication networks, proposed equitable resource-sharing strategies, and even found new solutions to long-standing disputes. Each time the council responded with acknowledgement, some even with admiration. "You are doing more than we expected," the taller alien projected privately. "Your species is capable of shaping interstellar cooperation. This is only the beginning." Evan realized that he was not just learning, he was contributing. Humanity, he thought, was stepping into a new era, one where curiosity, empathy, and adaptability could influence entire civilizations. He felt both humble and proud. Weeks passed, and Evan became a known figure in the Nexus. He was no longer just a human visitor. He was a problem solver, a mediator, and a bridge. Delegates came to him for insight, trusting his perspective even when it was unconventional. He found that humans, in their unique way, could act as connectors in a galaxy where misunderstanding was the greatest obstacle. One evening, as he looked out over the vast expanse of the station, stars glittering beyond the transparent walls, he realized the full truth. Humans had the potential not just to survive among the stars, but to guide understanding between species. They could build bridges where others saw only gaps, and Evan Hale had been given the first step. The two alien women joined him silently. "The first stage is complete," they projected. "The next stage is yours to create. You will teach, guide, and connect. Humans will be part of a new era." Evan nodded, understanding the gravity of their words. He had entered the wrong room by accident, yet that mistake had led him to a purpose far greater than he had imagined. He felt the weight of responsibility, yes, but also the thrill of possibility. As he stood there, gazing at the stars, he realized that humanity had never truly been alone. Curiosity, empathy, and adaptability were traits that could resonate across species, across worlds. And now humans had a chance to make a difference not through power or weapons, but through understanding, connection, and intellect. The station hummed gently around him, a quiet reminder of the vast potential waiting to be unlocked. He smiled, thinking of Earth, of the people who would never know what had begun here, and of the future that awaited his species. Sometimes, he reflected, the wrong room was not a mistake at all. It was the first step into a larger universe, a place where humans could shine not by force, but by the simple, remarkable power of being human. And with that, Evan Hale took his first steps as a bridge between worlds, carrying with him the knowledge that humanity's true strength was not just survival, but the ability to understand, to adapt, and to connect where no one else could. Evan had settled into a rhythm within the station, yet every day felt new. The Nexus was no longer intimidating. It had become a place of opportunity. He had learned to understand the languages, patterns, and thought processes of species far different from humans. The two alien women who had first held him in the observation chamber remained his guides, watching his growth with quiet pride. Today, the Nexus Council called for a session unlike any before. A series of problems had arisen in the outer sectors of a newly formed trade alliance, and every species had failed to find a lasting solution. Tensions had been simmering, not violently, but with frustration and misunderstanding. Evan was asked to participate. As he approached the platform, he noticed delegates from species he had never met, each with customs, gestures, and ways of communication he had only begun to grasp. The taller alien projected a thought to him: observe everything, listen with patience, speak with clarity. Evan nodded. He felt a familiar calm. Humans were not the fastest learners, but they were adaptable. They listened, processed, and then acted with creativity. That combination was rare across the galaxy. The session began. Data streams floated in the air, showing the details of trade agreements, resource shortages, and communication breakdowns. Delegates attempted to explain their positions, but misunderstandings multiplied. Each species assumed the others shared the same priorities, values, or thought processes, and each assumption was wrong. Evan stepped forward cautiously. He asked questions first, simple but precise. "What do each of your people need? What are the unspoken rules in your societies? What do you fear most in this trade network? He listened carefully as the delegates responded, often for the first time realizing that they had never truly considered the other's perspectives. This is how humans think, the second alien projected to him. You create understanding where none existed. He nodded, then began suggesting small adjustments. A subtle change in the timing of shipments, a shared protocol for communication, and a reassessment of priorities. Nothing drastic, nothing imposed, just guidance to help each side recognize and respect the others. Slowly, the tension in the room eased. Delegates leaned toward one another, testing new ideas, learning to listen instead of react. Evan noticed something remarkable. When humans approach a problem, we rarely assume the others are wrong. We ask questions, we explore perspectives, we find connections. Across species, this simple approach was revolutionary. The outer sectors of the Alliance, long considered impossible to manage, now had a path forward. You are making a difference, the taller alien projected softly. Your species has potential beyond calculation. Evan felt a thrill, but also humility. He understood that he was only a small part of the process. The aliens, technology, the station systems, and the cooperation of the delegates were all essential. But his perspective, the human perspective, was the missing piece. He realized that humans might never be the most powerful, the fastest, or the most logical, but we had a unique ability to bridge gaps others could not. Over the next days, Evan continued to work with the Council. He traveled with delegations to distant sectors of the Alliance, helping to resolve small misunderstandings before they became major disputes. Everywhere he went, he noticed that humans had an intuitive way of connecting with others, even when languages, appearances, and customs were entirely foreign. One evening, as Evan rested in a quiet corner of the station, he reflected on how far he had come. Only weeks ago, he had accidentally entered a room he was not supposed to. That mistake had led him to learn skills and understandings he could never have imagined. He realized that accidents, curiosity, and willingness to learn could be powerful tools in themselves. The two alien women joined him, standing silently beside him. The taller one projected a thought: "You are ready for the next stage. It is time for humans to participate in interstellar decision-making, not just observation." Evan's mind raced. Decision-making? Yes. Humans will now act as mediators, advisors, and guides. Your species can connect beings that others cannot. Your presence is no longer experimental, it is essential. He felt the weight of responsibility, yet it did not overwhelm him. The training in the observation chamber, the lessons in the Nexus, and the countless simulations had prepared him for this. He understood that humans were not perfect, but their combination of adaptability, empathy, and creativity gave them a role no one else could fill. The next day, Evan was called to a council session that would test him like never before. A resource dispute had escalated between 3 planets. The situation was delicate, with each species fearing the other's motives. The delegates spoke in rapid sequences of ideas, many of which he barely understood at first. But he listened, as he had learned, seeking patterns, understanding assumptions, and identifying common ground. He began to propose solutions, not orders, not commands, but suggestions that respected each species' values. If Planet A adjusts its shipping schedule slightly, and Planet B shares additional storage temporarily, while Planet C revises its reporting system, all of your concerns can be addressed, he projected calmly. At first, the delegates were skeptical. But as he explained each step, showing the benefits to everyone involved, the resistance began to fade. They started to discuss, negotiate, and adjust according to his suggestions. By the end of the session, a workable agreement was in place, a solution that no single species could have reached on its own. The aliens beside him watched silently, projecting approval. Humans are connectors, the taller one said. They create understanding where others see only conflict. Evan felt a sense of accomplishment, not for himself, but for humanity. His species had been underestimated for so long, yet here, in the vast galaxy, they were capable of shaping outcomes through empathy, reasoning, and collaboration. Over time, Evan became a trusted advisor across the Nexus. He helped establish protocols for trade, communication, and cooperation. He trained other humans who arrived, teaching them to use observation, empathy, and careful reasoning as tools. Slowly, the galaxy began to notice humans not for their strength, but for their ability to understand and connect. One quiet moment, Evan stood in the observation chamber where it had all begun. The room hummed softly, as if acknowledging his growth. The two alien women appeared, their presence familiar and reassuring. "You have done well," the taller one projected. "Your species now has a recognized place among the stars." Evan smiled, thinking of Earth, of the people who would never know what had begun here, and of the future that awaited humanity. They had entered the galaxy not with weapons or domination, but with curiosity, empathy, and intelligence. And that, he realized, was the greatest power of all. "The next stage is yours to guide," the second alien projected. "Humans will lead by understanding, connecting, and building bridges. You will teach others the value of patience, observation, and cooperation." Evan felt a sense of purpose deeper than anything he had experienced. He had entered the wrong room by accident, yet that mistake had given him and humanity a role of unprecedented importance. The galaxy had seen what humans could do, and now they had the chance to make a difference in ways no one had imagined. As he looked out over the vast expanse of stars visible through the station's transparent walls, Evan knew that humanity's journey was just beginning. They would not conquer through force, but through understanding. They would not dominate through fear, but through connection. They would shine through empathy, creativity, and the unique ability to adapt to the unknown. And with that knowledge, Evan Hale stepped forward once more, ready to guide humanity into a new era, one where being human was the greatest advantage in a galaxy that had only just begun to